part of the okay, now is recording in progress. Okay, so let's start. And this is the second part of the workshop about the modern testing, the modern UI testing stack. And in the first part, we have written just a couple of simple tests using a Java library named Selenide. And then we also integrated beautiful reporting, I don't know, some useful reporting feature into the test. Also, I've showed you how you can use metadata annotating your tests to get a clearer structure in the reports. And today, we will build up on this foundation. So today we will not be writing any more tests, but we will see how actually should a modern test automation work, because unfortunately, in quite a lot of projects, I've seen the situation when I came there as a consultant that every test, or at least really most of the tests that were written, they were just executed by test automata or some other persons from their local computers on request. So not regularly, of course, it brings a lot of problems as tests are becoming stale, old. So if you start your test just every month, let's say, then you will need a lot of time updating them and analyzing the problems. So of course, in my opinion, your job in test automation isn't over until you also integrated your tests in any system of continuous integration, continuous deployment, CI/CD, also called, or just CI for continuous integration. And as of today, probably the most popular CI/CD tool in the world is Jenkins. And I will show you how you can start using Jenkins even from in a project which didn't install it yet, didn't have any Jenkins in their infrastructure. And all the many projects, of course, are having Jenkins or some other system like GitLab and so on. But it's actually pretty easy to set it up by yourself if the topic is new and you want to get started with it. So, and here comes a word of warning, because it's a situation I get into a couple of last weekends, was that I've prepared some stuff for this workshop earlier in this year, and then I've upgraded my Mac. So I bought a new Mac with MI processor architecture, silicon, you name it. So it's not the brand new technology at the moment. So I think these processors are already more than a year. But more than a year in use, the mass market, but still it looks like not everything is compatible for my new Mac. So as I've started to run the parts of my workshop that were perfectly working with good old Mac of 2017, they just didn't work. I must say, I was warned about Selenoid, which will be the second part of our workshop of today, that it will probably won't work under this architecture. But I was also negatively impressed by what problem we still having, for example, installing Jenkins. So actually, I've managed to install Jenkins and run it on the Mac, but then it started it started to hang up, and I didn't know the reason, so I just get rid of the idea to run this workshop on my newest Mac. So perhaps if you will watch this video in a year, or perhaps in a couple of months already, everything will be fixed and will be working. But yeah, I want to warn you that it's also possible and even probable, because Macs are not the typical infrastructure PCs, not infrastructure, typically are not used as servers as much. So it's also rather probable that a lot of issues won't be fixed at all, because the things I will be showing today, they are typical server software. So the most popular platform is the Linux, and of course it's voluntarily for developers to rebuild their images, to rebuild their software, to also be working nicely on the newest Mac. So we will see how it develops. Okay, so that's been said, I think the most of what I'm will be showing, you can just easily do on some of your Windows PCs. There are some differences between Windows, but the Windows versions. But most enterprise versions have no problems with Docker and Linux images, so it should be working. And also on the older Mac, it should everything will be working on a Linux PC. And for this workshop, I've created a couple of so-called droplets, so it's just like some virtual machines on DigitalOcean. There are a lot of services which are offering virtual machines. So I've just took a couple of virtual machines with Linux, and I will be showing we will be doing everything on these machines. So okay. In this part we will dive in Jenkins, and the first link would be Jenkins installation guide. I will copy the link in the chat, and as you can see, there are quite a lot of possibility how you install Jenkins. I will show one of it. It's also quite popular. Installation over Docker, and we will see how it works. So this is my virtual PC, and first step, I would normally check if Docker is installed and working. So it looks actually actually good. Then it's fine. Yes, some server version. So in some cases, if it's very old Docker, it's probably makes sense to update it, get the newest version. But for now, it looks just fine. It's working. So then we will be pulling the Docker image from, just a moment, where's my second screen? Yeah. Okay. With Docker pull, and I will be taking Blue Ocean. So an image which have a Blue Ocean plugin bundle with it. So let's go. Okay. So got the newest image of it. It could take a little more time on your computer, because some of parts of this image were already downloaded in this computer, so it goes pretty fast here. Then the next important step is to create a volume where we want to persist Jenkins data. So the job we will be creating, it will be using just the Docker image, and we will one day we will stop and start it, so the data doesn't get lost yet. But if we, for example, will remove the container, or I don't know, try to update the image, so just run a software in another container, then all data we have in this our working container will be lost. So it's a good idea to create some volumes to save there our information about plugins, about jobs that we'll be creating somewhere, to not to get it deleted after container is removed. So, and then the next call is running this Docker container. So I will do some explanation about. Sorry. Okay. Sorry, I will. Hit the phone call. So I will explain the parameters. So first is the publish ports. So normally Jenkins is running in port 8080. It's also not a problem. You can just use this standard port and will be fine. I've decided to remap it at another port because 8080 also popular, will be taken by some other programs, just to make sure I don't have any conflicts. So detach is a parameter which tells Docker to leave to end the command line command after the container has been started. So if we don't do this, then we will see all the logs which the container is writing, and if we would close the terminal, so this terminal window, then the container will be stopped. We don't want to stop it. Then we will just give a name to this container to have a clear understanding what is the purpose of this container. And this line is about mapping this Jenkins data volume, which we have just created, to the folder where Jenkins jobs data and plugins configuration will be saved. So to have this persistence of data. And Jenkins Blue Ocean is one variety of Jenkins images. So let's go. It has started. Then the next step, we should go to the Docker logs for this container. So luckily we've given the name to this container, so we can just call it Jenkins. And -f or follow means that, as you see, the output doesn't end right now. So if we want to end the output, we will press Ctrl+C, and we can see the lines are running. So it's famous tail or follow option in Linux. And why do we need logs? Because we need this password, which we need for the first time to initialize Jenkins. Okay, so I've copied this password, and now let's go to Jenkins. So this is a URL from this is the address of my machine in the cloud. This DigitalOcean droplet, and as you remember, we have configured port 8888 Jenkins to run it. Yes, and we just copy the password and continue. Okay, for now, I suggest we just use standard plugins. Just choose the screen and wait shortly. So there are a lot of very useful plugins that I like to use with Jenkins, but I think it will just take too much time to show even a couple of them. So we will not do it today. Perhaps someday we could also make a Jenkins workshop, which will last 4 hours, and I will then show you a lot of very interesting plugins for Jenkins. So let's do some configuration. I'm creating my first admin user, and okay, 7 continue. Okay, 7 finish, and then we need to restart Jenkins once more. It will take a couple of minutes, or hopefully and faster. Okay. So the next step. Okay. See, now it's ready. So I sign in, and okay, we see the standard Jenkins dashboard, and here I propose, because as you remember, we have already integrated in our Selenide test Allure reporting. And Jenkins has a very nice Allure plugin that make us for us possible to see the reports very nicely in Jenkins shop. So let's install it. So I go to Manage Jenkins. Okay, here is some warning, but it's not a problem for now. So it's telling us that actually it's a good idea to build stuff, to build your software not on the Jenkins node itself, but also create some so-called nodes, which are agents. Could be agents or some cloud services where actually building and running tests will be happening. But for now, we will just run our test on the same in the same environment where Jenkins is installed. So manage plugins. We go for available plugins here and search for Allure. Okay, Allure Report. And let's do install without restart. Actually, it works without need to restart it. So now we've installed Allure, but we must do one more thing. Go into Manage Jenkins, global tool configuration. We must configure Allure and install Allure command line. Command line tool will just once, but when you configure in Jenkins, so you don't need it to do it for every job. For example, just let's take the newest version. Oh, of course, you could here experiment taking some taking different version of Allure, but that's we will not focus on our workshop today. So just choose to install Allure automatically and think that's it. So it is configured. Okay, so now Jenkins is configured, and let's go to our test, to our tests. Okay. It's not a project, this project. So I've named it Jenkins 101, but actually there are solution for some example solution for our last part about annotating Selenide tests with Allure annotations and doing some Allure stuff. Okay, so this is tests. So normally I've shown you how to start them from IntelliJ IDE, but of course we want to run the test in our integration environment from command line. So I would do as the first step is just to look if our tests are running from the command line. Yeah, so Gradle, bigger perhaps, yeah. Oops. Some visual effects, but it's basically Gradle with W at the end. It means Gradle wrapper. It's actually a nice tool, because nice variation of Gradle instrument, which also downloads always the same version of Gradle itself, which is configured somewhere here in our project. So it guarantees that independent of the environment, if we are running tests on our computer, on computer of our colleague, or on Jenkins, that the same version of Gradle will be run, so it can save us some problems with compatibility. Okay, let's run the test. That's it. And this is completed. Okay, so I think we shouldn't have any problems with it. I've also created some more tests to just to experiment with some parallelization topics. So these two tests are doing nothing, just waiting for 10 seconds. Yeah, just for us later to see how it will be working. So, okay, everything is fine. So the next step is, okay, I would like to edit build Gradle a little bit. So this is the state from our last workshop. And I will, okay, I will show you something. Just let's run test one once more. We will see what will happen. Yeah, you see now the test was ready in 2 seconds. How is it possible? It's actually supposed to be feature in Jenkins. Is actually a feature that not in Jenkins, excuse me, in Gradle. It's a feature of Gradle that Gradle is trying to cache a lot of things. So in this case, Gradle thinks that, okay, we haven't changed anything in our code. We have already started the test. So what could happen? What else could happen? They will probably be okay as well. And so it decides not to actually not to run these tests at all. And it's telling us that build was successful. Of course, it's not the case for end-to-end tests. In this case, our code is which will be changing is somewhere external, like our GitHub project. Yes, so of course, we want to run the test every time when we start a build Gradle command. And oops, sorry, that's the run line. And actually, there are also a lot of different solutions for it, which you can Google. And today I will show you one which is also new for me. But I've read a couple of blogs and I found the idea pretty nice. So the only purpose is, of course, to run always the test. And in this case, this this line is generating a timestamp of now, so it will be unique every time, and assigning it to this variable. It could be any variable name. So just start test time is just an example. So we could use perhaps one day we could use this this variable in our test code. Yes, we're not doing it now, but what happens? Gradle can now recognize that every time we run this the test, something else, something new will happen. In this case, it will always be the new timestamp. So it will always run the test. And so let's check it. Yeah, you can see. So I will just break it. Will stop the test, but you will see it will. It has tried to run them again, and that's what we wanted. Okay, so actually, I would be happy if a Gradle would just add some switch just for this case, because it's typical for us tester to have a UI testing project. So it's a very normal case, and it would be much easier if this test block would have some kind of switch that we can turn on to make this test block executing every time. It would be a nice solution. It's not possible now, and I don't know about plans to introduce this switch. So this is one of possible workarounds how to achieve that. Okay, so now we will be working with pipelines in Jenkins Pipeline. So you basically have the possibility to configure quite a lot of things in your job just by using UI of Jenkins. But now in the modern testing and software development, you could have heard the things like configuration as a code. So it actually brings some benefits to be able to check in your configuration in your source control management systems like Git, and to diff them, like and in many cases also execute this configuration automatically. So we will go the modern way, and we will create a pipeline. I will give it a name, for example, Selenide tests, and I will choose its pipeline. Okay, so there's a lot of fields, but we actually just need one block, this pipeline block. And I will choose that we will use pipeline script from source control management is SCM Git. And now I will just take sorry, not this, but this this address of the repository. So watch carefully. I have chosen SSH because I'm getting on a regular basis warnings that the password authentication is deprecated, and it's possible that it will be turned off on GitHub. So we are encouraged to use public private key authentication over SSH. So we'll do it also in this workshop. Oh, this is the address. And okay, so we need to put here some credentials. Credentials would be, in this case, oh, my private key. Okay, I've actually planned to save it before this workshop because I don't want my private key to be recorded. But okay, so I will show you how you normally do it. A change in here at SSH username and with private key. And then I guess any name would work. I could local key, just give some name. And I will copy my key, but on my second screen, which is not recorded, I hope. And okay, so there are still parts of my private key on the recording, but I hope that this won't help to to reconstruct it. So okay, so back to the main screen. Yeah, now I can choose my private key here, and the counterpart. So yeah, I'm using GitHub, so go here in settings and to SSH and SSH keys, and these are public key. So you must save your private key in Jenkins, but for GitHub, of course, it's enough to save your private key. Just you can do it here. Add new key, give some title, and copy this key from your computer, and it's no problem to show you public key to anyone. So you can publish it on the internet. It's no security issue. Okay, so it's if I configure, so of course the pair my public key and my private key should match. So if I generate the key, I will get this pair, and I'm putting the public part on settings of GitHub and private part in Jenkins to be able to, the Jenkins will be able to download this repository from GitHub. Yeah. So the warnings are back. So my branch is not master but main, and then here's a script path. So it's typically it's typical that pipelines are called Jenkins file, and many developers think it's even a requirement. It's not so. So it's actually wrong. That it is a requirement. You can name your file or whatever you want. I actually prefer not to use Jenkins files, but get some reasonable name. For example, UI suite Jenkins file in this case, because actually in testing, it's pretty normal having multiple pipelines for the same project, for the same big project. And I want to differentiate them. I don't like them all to be called UIs, to be called just Jenkins file. So this is, it's empty for now. I will put some source code to it in a moment. But for now, I'm just I will just be using this Jenkins file as configuration for Jenkins, and it is in this folder 03 Jenkins 101. So it is like this, Jenkins 101. Just put the path. Jenkins file. Okay, that's actually it, and I save it. It's the only thing you configure in this UI, at least that's the thing that we'll need at the moment. Okay, so and let's fill this file with live, and I will copy here a very simple pipeline. I will explain. It's a so-called declarative style pipeline, which is telling, okay, this is pipeline agent any. That means if you would have a lot of different nodes or agents or some machines where you could run a Jenkins job, you could, for example, structure them, like make some machines running Java code, other machines running JavaScript, Node.js, whatever, and then label them. And it would be here you could configure which agents, which a group of agents should execute this job. For now, we don't have any agent, and so we just put any that any, and in this case, just single main agent will be started. So this options timestamp is using timestamp plugin, which is very useful. I will show you in a moment what it does. And then we have stages. Stages like steps in building your product, your software, or in our case, in running our test. So let's imagine, you can imagine we have two stages. In stage 1, we will run our test, and stage 2, we will run our, we will generate Allure reports. Yes, for now I will be doing just some output here, so nothing will be actually built, just to see if our configuration was has worked properly. Yeah, and for now I will just let's commit git yeah, just let's commit these changes and push them in GitHub. And now let's try to build our job. It's build now button here, a menu. So just click, and we'll hope that it will work. So some important parts of Jenkins UI is this area where you can directly jump to logs with some helpful information. It's mostly helpful in cases when something goes wrong. Of course, if, as you can see now, everything is fine. Yeah, you can also see some. You can see our outputs of stages. And if something goes wrong, it's the way to look into it, what the problems could be. So timestamps plugin is here on the right. So if without it, everything looks like this. It's nice if we have a very simple and fast job like this one, but in many cases you have jobs which are going about minutes or sometimes hours. And for example, if during the job run something will get hanging, it is interesting to understand from this log, okay, where, so if we can go, for example, we can go here, back here, and here we see that, okay, each stage was really quickly. So the build was running a second. Yes, but in some cases we can, if we have some problems with our jobs, it will takes long minutes, and we want to understand, okay, what actually took some time, what actually took that much time, yeah. And this timestamp plugin is very genius. So it just automatically puts this timestamp on every output which this job is making. So we would see here if something takes more time than expected. It's easy to pinpoint it. And elapsed time option, it's a time since start of the job. So actually, as you can see, 10 seconds. It was 10 seconds after we started the build. So this, I guess, there are also some ramp up time. So even if we see here 1 second, and if we sum the things up, the full time is a little bit longer. As you can see here, it was around 11 seconds. It's not the sum of this. This is stage times. Okay, so for now, of course, it's job doing almost nothing. And we want to do some tests. Okay. The next part. Is let's start our test here. Just this way. We run the very same command here. And again, I commit and push, and we run this test. So what do you expect from this test? Okay, it was pretty fast, and it is failing. Why? Do you have any idea why does this test failing? Let's have a look. Oh, Gradle not found. Okay, that's because I've actually I must put here another line. Sorry, I'm not in the proper directory. It wasn't intended, so actually I must change first for cd Jenkins 101, of course, and after that run Gradle test. It looks better. And just let's run. Test again. As you can see, it is sometimes tedious to change the code, commit it and push, and then go back and start the job. There is also some debugging, the debugging options in Jenkins. I will show you one of them. So let's see if it looks better. Yeah, it looks better. It is starting a Gradle job. As you can see, the first time Gradle wrapper downloads the pre-configured version of Gradle, which we can define our project. Like I think here is yes, this one. So we could use here another one if we need it, but it will be the same version over all classes. Yeah. And it will, I know it will fail. If someone have an idea, you can write in chat why it will fail. Yeah, some WebDriver exception. What is the problem here? The problem here is that actually this Jenkins installation, it doesn't have any browser. So it's just a Jenkins container. Luckily it has a Java. So if it would be something with Node.js, it will probably it won't be working as well, because Jenkins container probably don't have Node.js. But here, luckily, we have Java and Jenkins, so it's generally it's starting, but it doesn't have any browser. And okay, so what can we do about it? So let's install the browser. We will do it in the similar way we've installed Jenkins. We will use Docker and container with standard Selenium standalone Chrome browser. Minus paste just the same as minus publish. We had errors, so I'm just reconfiguring the port to be from standard 4444 to 45555. So this image, Selenium standalone Chrome, installs also Selenium standalone server. So it's not Selenium grid, it's just a server, but it's enough for us to run. And -d is detached. It's also the things that we've seen already, and we are giving name Chrome to it. Okay, so now it is there, it's up and running, and now we want to configure it to run. So yeah, first let's check if browser is available for us. So you can just enter is again address of my virtual machine, and it's the port that we have configured. And as you can see, Selenium standalone, so something is already looks like already there, but oops, the URL is wrong. So actually, you can see some more information if you are adding VD as WebDriver and hub, WD as a WebDriver and hub in URL. So here you can we will see some sessions when the browser will be running. So at the moment, no sessions, which is of course fine. So if we start a typical Selenide test, it will of course first try to find local browser and start test with them. What we could do, we could use here configuration directly in test, but I don't like this practice. I think I want all my tests to be clean and just have information which is relevant to test, but not to in what browser it is supposed to run or on which server it is supposed to run. So it's infrastructural information. I don't want to see it in my test files, yes, in test classes. And luckily, Selenide has a very good ecosystem to be possible to make it possible to configure this information externally. Let's have a look how we can do it. Again, I go to build Gradle and we'll be adding this short line. So this line basically tells Gradle to use system property, to use every system property which is transferred externally and pass it along to Selenide script. So just reusing all system properties. Just a moment. Yeah, okay. But we don't want. Let me look up my code. I haven't copied it. Actually, there are some issues that could come if some system properties are going into the system which are not intended for the test. In my case, I've experienced issues because actually the Jenkins container with Jenkins using Java 8, and my tests are prepared for Java 11, which is not a big problem. It will be running, but there are some system environment variables that are set on in this container, which are preventing from running the code written for Java 11. So that's the reason I don't want to forward every environment, every system variable to my script, but only relevant environment variables, which will be starting with Selenide. And I have a shortcode for this. Just let's have a look. Okay. Yeah. This one. Yeah. So what does what this code does is just to filter system properties and take those which are starting with Selenide. So not every system property, but just those with Selenide. And we can also, in some cases, I'm also doing this. We can check already if it will work from our IDE. So without checking in, but just to oops. Just writing this snippet in our command line. So here I configure my browser remotely to be this very address. Yes, this address where we have configured standalone Selenium server with a Chrome browser. Let's watch. So my expectation is that no browser will go up here. Because we are running tests here, and as you can see, here are some new sessions. So it's actually reached this instance, and the tests are running on my browser in the cloud. So it's actually kind of nice. Okay, I think now I can commit it and just look what the next step will be. Yeah, okay. So we could, let's do it. I also push it to this GitHub server. Now let's see if it helps to run our tests. No, sorry, we didn't change the job yet. And I will show you another option here. So in some cases, we want to debug our pipeline because we actually don't know exactly how to get it working. And of course, every time to change the code and then commit and push and start job, it's not the fastest way to do it. We can also change our pipeline directly here under replay menu. So we go into some run, and then click on replay, and this is how this test was run. And we add this piece of code here. Okay, and run it from here. So we haven't committed it yet. In case we have some typo or something, so it's a good way to debug your test without committing it. And after it will be working, we probably copy it back in our source code and commit it eventually. So and the next step, I will also configure Allure. Oops, okay. There was some. Let's delete these symbols. Okay, it's standard Allure configuration. Oops, not too much. That's too much. Okay. So it's what's important to put the right path where Allure results are stored. Sometimes, so the simplest way to find out where your Allure results are stored, so it's probably the standard configuration for now, but in some cases you reconfigure it in Allure plugin and then you cannot find it in Pipeline. Yes, is another. Yes, you see here it worked. Is you can go to the run and then go to the workspaces. Workspaces is actual view on your directory where the tests are running. So here you just go to this directory and look where Allure result is situated. So in case it's not here, but in some other places. And that's of course something you must configure here in your script. So it looks nice. Can someone see what the problem could be here? I could commit and run it. Let's do it. And actually, it will be running just fine. But it's for the moment, it's not the best way to do a pipeline, because the following could happen, and actually in testing it will happen quite often. If this test will be failing, then the whole stage will be aborted, and the tests that are coming after that will not be executed. So in this case, this pipeline will generate Allure report only if the test is passed, which is of course not what we not exactly what we want. Yes, but for now, just let's have a look at our new new Jenkins run, and you can see here Allure icon. Also, if you go into this particular build, you will see here a couple of links where you can also reach this report. And when you click it, you will see our famous Allure report with all meta information, and everything is working nicely. Yes, let's fix this stage problem. So there is a special stage which is called post. Post in Jenkins pipeline, and there are also options we can define that we run something always, and that's exactly what we are going to do right now. Always. In some cases, we could run something only if build was successful, or vice versa, if build was failed only. But in this case, of course, we want always to run our Allure reports, no matter if test was successful or not. And okay, so we don't need any steps declaration in here because it's automatically considered to be steps. And we can delete this stage. So let's do it. And let's watch our results. So and actually it's already something that we can use. Typical usage is of course now we can just start the job by clicking on build now, but in your practice you most probably want to use so-called nightly builds, like run this test suite once a day at night, for example, and you can configure it here. There are different ways, but most one of the simplest is just to go here in build triggers, build periodically. Can put here some help. So the first number is for minute, the second number is for hour. For example, 21 always every day, and then we will put asterisk for do it every day of months, on every month, and day of the week. For example, we could do something like this, just run it from Monday to Friday. Yeah, and every day, every month, just start it at 9 p.m. sharp. Save, and it will run automatically every day without need for you to change something. Okay, now you can see there is some Allure trend history. After the second run, it is shown. Of course, it will be it will show you every Allure every run where Allure was active here in this diagram. And also in the report itself, there are also eventually some trend information. Yeah, because now we have more than one run. Yeah, and also you will get here in something in history, something in this history tab of your test. So now, if you remember our last workshop, I've told you that if you're running it locally, just the last run will be saved, and here you have your history. It's very nice. It's what you want to have when you are running it in continuous integration. Okay, let's go on. So, okay, let's try to do these jobs faster. What can we do? Let's see what are the times. The times, actually also possible to look here. Okay, was around. As you can see, this is a time-law view of Allure test runs. And now Allure results is saving all the test runs. So if you run the job more than once, then it takes it here on the diagram, every of these 4 runs. Yes, it's even this run with some failures. It's actually not very easy to understand the implication of what tests were the slowest, what tests were the fastest. So I actually, in many cases, just use here another target, clean, which deletes all the caching data and also Allure results. So we will have some more meaningful information if we clean up Allure results before running the next test. Just let's edit and run it once again. So we can start it also from here. So you can see it is running, and let's try to do our test a little bit faster. There are actually different ways to run the test in parallel. Well, we'll show you one of them. Go to build Gradle. So once again, we don't change anything in our tests. Not a line of code. We just doing some configuration to achieve this. So okay, this, oops, why? Okay, so these are configuration parameters which are allowing you to run test in parallel using JUnit 5 options. So when we are enabling the parallel mode, then mode is concurrent, like actually running tests in parallel. Actually, in parallel, there are some different modes. Don't ask me why you need other modes if you want to enable parallel test, but okay, the way it is. And just now we have a solution of taking always 2 threads to run our test, fixed and 2 threads. So there are also dynamic option which will then be considering the number of processes, which could also be a good option in many cases. But now let's just fix the number of tests to number of parallel threads to 2. Okay, just commit and push. Let's watch the result. So we have as basis, we have 38 seconds, and just let's run it now in parallel mode. We will see if it will get better. So here, now it's looking better. Now you have just the last run, and here's actually a nice feature of Allure Report. Here you can select your slowest test, for example, tests which are taking from, I don't know, here above, so longer than 9 seconds. This then these are these 2. Yeah, so actually it's pretty nice feature. If you have a lot of tests, you will see here a simple way to find out which tests took the most. Okay, so let's see if it worked. No, just fine. As you can see, we have some progress. We made some progress. Let's look at the same timeline graphs here, and here you have a definite sign that it was two strings, two threads, and they actually really synchronous, almost the same time was taken. Yeah, and of course, in general, it's now around 70 seconds. And the last one, we can go here for the last one. Let's see, it was 28 seconds. So it's almost the half of the time. Now, as you can see, it worked well. So there is another possibility to make to run the test in parallel, just using Jenkins, and it's one which many developers are missing. It's a very simple option which allows also to make the build jobs much faster. Okay, just a moment. So it goes to pipeline and let's copy it here. Yeah. Yes. So. Yes. Hope it's proper aligned. Okay. Okay. Okay, it looks good. So I think stage. No, I think something is missing. There must be another stage which are grouping all the stages together. Stage tests, for example. And now let's do the following. I think it's right. But run tests. Yeah, I think it's like this. Yeah. So now we have parallel stages, and just for example, in one stage we are running the test we were running right now, and in the other stage I will be running tests. Deleted. I will be running the test from our previous workshop. Also on the same Docker image with standalone Selenium server and Chrome. Okay, does it make sense? I think yes. Yes, it makes sense. So let's do it. Jenkins and run. Okay, I probably mistyped something. Yeah. Okay, it's probably forgot to close some brackets here. Okay, once again, this is a bracket. This is a bracket, this is a bracket, this is a bracket. Actually, looks right. But message line 33. 33, or is it one bracket too much? Stages. Ah, okay, I forgot to open this bracket. Yeah. Okay, yeah, now it should be fine. Again. Yeah, now it's looking better. So actually, it's creating some load on our Docker container. Let's have a look what's happening. Because in spite, we actually trying to run 4 threads in parallel. We have just one single browser container, which is accepting all these requests, and it could be our bottleneck. Let's see if it worked. Yes, actually it worked, because I know I've in the last workshop. Oh, wait a minute. Ah, of course, I forgot. I forgot the second Allure results to our report. So in this case, we have tests which are running in 2 different directories. So if we want to if we want to have all reports bundled together, we must, of course, add this folder as well. How? Like this. Or was it just one moment? No, it wasn't like this. It was like that. And now it's also some brackets. Brackets is one of the big problem in programming. Okay. Now it must report our results much better. Let's run it. So I actually want to see what happens here. Why is it red? And most of the time, if I have my productive test, I don't look in console. I just go directly to Allure reports, and it shows me what's happening. So back to the load of this one single Docker container with Chrome. I must say I've tried a couple of things with my virtual machine. So I've started with just one processor, one core on it, and I think 2 gigabytes of RAM. And I had even some problems running Jenkins with just simple tests. So it was not enough resources to run even 2 tests in parallel. So in this case, probably one of our earliest tests would already be failing when there were genuine parallelization in place. So I've increased it first at two cores and 4 gigabytes. And it worked smoothly until I've used Selenoid, another Selenoid container, and it was probably even it wasn't enough for that many containers as well. So now I'm having a machine with 4 processors, so 4 CPUs and I think 8 GB of RAM. I think it's pretty reasonable. So if you try these things also in cloud and just taking the cheapest possible server, you will probably experience the same problem. So you will expect to have some errors. It will be something like a browser has crashed or out of memory or no response or unknown response. It's probably a sign that it's not enough resources on your machine. So now, as you can see, everything is fine, and we have here, in this case, just normal test, which was the last one in our workshop. And here I on purpose I've changed the test to make it fail, to see some screenshots. So it's like expected behavior for this. And as you can see, even if one test is failed, the report was generated, so everything works according to our plans for now. Okay, and also these both jobs were running in parallel. And in standard view of Jenkins, you cannot see it. So it's actually looks like all the stages are run consequently. First Jenkins, then Allure. And that's the reason why I've installed OpenBlueOcean plugin. It's just another view on all this stuff, on this job. And it shows the same jobs then more nicely. Here we can really see that these stages were run in parallel. And actually it has almost the same menus, which are of course here, sorry, they have it's like different, very different layout. Also, as far as I can see, I don't have any Allure. So Allure plugins are not visually presented on this BlueOcean plugin. So I would probably use both this view to have some information, some more precise view on what was happening in my most complex pipelines, but the standard view is also helpful, of course. I think it's here, yeah, because here I can easily access my Allure reports. Okay, so now also this job actually run in parallel, so it's was shorter than if we had this. So it took less than 1 minute, I guess. We can actually watch it here. Yes, it took just 38 seconds altogether. So as you can see, we can actually achieve some very good improvements on our test run times, not change by using parallelization in tests. And there are really different ways to use it. I can say in my actual project, when I came to the project, there were some tests, and the one suite has a runtime of around an hour, and we quickly made all our test suites actually run under 10 minutes, and now we are successfully maintaining this time. So every time when I see a suite getting bigger and exceeds this 10 minutes limit, we do some minor change, actually making more threads or doing some other parallelization reconfiguration, and actually we are maintaining this for now more than 6 months under 10 minutes, I think it's a good result. We actually could also go under 5 minutes, but for us, 10 minutes at the moment are enough. So, and I think this is it for Jenkins part. Okay, and there's a exercise. Which you could do at home. Is you could, I really encourage you to try these things out because, yeah, in this way you will be learning. Sorry, you will be learning these things much better than by just watching the videos. So my plan for your exercise would be to just set up your own Jenkins, create a job running your tests. We'll probably have some, connect Allure reporting in Jenkins, and then experiment with parallel execution, which I've shown you already. Okay, so it looks like I am not as fast as I hoped, and I think we will just go through the second part of it with Selenoid. And yes, sorry for committed personnel. Olga, if you're here, it looks like it will take more than 2 hours altogether. I'm going to make a short break now because okay, I was talking 90 minutes, and it's possible that the second part will be also more than an hour. It's a lot of stuff there, so I need some rest to get through it smoothly. I will make a short break of 5 minutes, and then we'll continue with Selenide. I think it's better than just to cut off on some things that I've prepared for you guys. Okay, thank you. If you have some questions, you can put them in the chat meanwhile. And see you in 5 minutes. Yeah, Jack, thank you. I was was just setting up my environment. I wasn't actually talking. So let's continue. Let's start with what is actually Selenoid. So Selenoid is actually an attempt to make the things which Selenium Grid has failed to do better. So it's like a better, you can imagine it could be a better Selenium Grid with more features and more stable. And so it's a Docker solution, containers, but actually Selenium Grid is can also be configured as a container solution. It's also the recommended way to use it in containers. But Selenoid has some more features, which you will be seeing in a moment. And Selenium Grid is known for having some problems if you have really many tests, and they could start hanging, and the nodes are getting off. So this should be better with using of Selenoid. Okay, so we will configure and set up and configure the same thing. We will configure and run Selenoid using recommended configuration manager of it. It's also from the same AeroCube company, and it's supposed to make your experience with Selenoid easier. Actually, Selenoid is everything are Docker containers, so you can go and directly, if you have enough Docker skills, set everything up, run this container, configure them. Configuration manager is an optional tool which makes the configuration a bit easier for a user who are not going to dive deeply into details of Docker. Don't want to. So the first step would be to download the configuration manager binary. It's written in Go and must be downloaded for your platform. It's already downloaded in my Linux computer. So let's clear it up. See, yeah, it is downloaded. And then, so in case you're working on Linux or Mac, you would also need to change the rights with +X to make it executable after you download it. But okay, just common things for any program you download. Just download from the internet, of course. Okay. Okay. So the next thing I typically do is I run CN. So there are two parts of Selenoid. One is Selenoid itself. It's a container with actually a container which is managing other containers with Chrome. No, not necessarily Chrome, but with browsers which you want to use for your test. Similar with, as you can remember, we have downloaded and installed image of latest Chrome, and so Selenoid helps you to get the most recent version of the popular browsers with one command. So I'm doing Selenoid update, which I just make from time to time to get the newest images. you can see, it default configuration, it just takes 2 latest images of Firefox, Chrome, and from Opera. So the second, yeah, and then I can start Selenoid with Selenoid, same Selenoid start. Okay. I guess update starts it already. I've if you read carefully what Selenoid, what the output is, and it helps you to not to do some extra steps. But the second thing, Selenoid UI, is just a simple web application, which I will show you in a moment. Okay, so it is started, and web application is as default, it is installed under the port 8080. It was also one of the reasons why I've chosen another port for Jenkins. Of course, you can reconfigure the port and let it run on some other ports. Yes, also the reason why I choose here have chosen another port here, because Selenoid itself run as default on 4444. Let's see. Actually, let's see it. 454. Yeah. Okay. Nice. It's working. So what is this dashboard UI application is showing? It show us okay, the state, everything is fine, and then the quarter here is telling us that this Selenoid instance can start up to 5 sessions, up to 5 browsers simultaneously. Of course, if there are enough hardware resources on this computer. If you would have one processor, it wouldn't work, even if even if we would try it to run 5 sessions in parallel. It's too much for one processor. And okay, and the second thing is I go to capabilities tab, and here we can even simply start some manual session for the browser. Just choose the browser, which is installed, and click on create session. Let's see what's will be happening. So you can kind of do here just manual testing. We'll make it bigger, and then here a locks this blue button with lock symbol. Then you can go in and type some tests. Amazon.com. Oh, yeah, you see another way to use the browser. Of course, most of the time I have enough local browser, so I actually almost never use this feature. But in some cases, if you need some specifically some specific version of a browser, or like Opera, which is not installed by me, you can use it, or you can use it for it. But of course, manual testing is not what we are here for. So I'm going back to stats tab, and you see here, so one browser is in use, and this is my manual session, and I can close it. Click on delete. Yeah. Now again, no more sessions. Okay, nice. So there is some interesting thing I will show you. Is that as of today we have the 9th of August. The latest Chrome of version 92 doesn't work here without workaround. So if I try to create session, it won't work. No. So there are some known issues with this Docker image for latest Chrome. There are some workarounds, but I don't think it's a good idea that I will show you these workarounds, because I guess in a week or two, everything will be just working fine without any workarounds. So most of you will be watching this video later, and it's actually interesting. It's interesting to just to know that it is possible that some of the newest browser images, it happens from time to time, corrupt. So just don't wonder, don't think that the tool is completely broken or doesn't work. There are now Chrome and also Firefox, they are releasing almost twice a month with some new major versions of their browser, and in some cases we really have issues with the newest version of it, and they are fixed rather quickly most of the time. Yes, so it's like a rare case which can happen, so you should be prepared to see the problems that you probably Google, and will get help either by finding some workaround or just eliminating this browser if you don't really need to test it with the newest browser yet. So we will do the same. I will show you how to eliminate this browser from our setup. Let's go back to our virtual machine. Okay. And for first, I will stop the Selenide. Oops. No, stop the Selenide container. And okay, I will show just quickly another little thing. Selenoid, but I can give some arguments, and please. So some of the arguments will need this these quotes around it. So minus args, and then you need these quotes, otherwise it will not be working. So I wasted some time last weekend because I didn't get it from the beginning. So for example, this command just set up the limit. Okay, didn't work. Actually, it's supposed to work. What is wrong? I wanted to put the to increase the limit. Okay. Okay, it's strange. It works. It worked on my PC yesterday. Okay. Oh, actually curious. Okay. No. Okay. Am I supposed to restart? So not. It's not necessary. No. Okay. Then I don't know why. Okay. It's actually strange. Good. Okay. So this command should supposed to increase the limit to 8. Okay. Great. But okay, it's not that important. What another thing I wanted to show you is how to reconfigure the browsers. So there is a possibility. Let's stop it, and then then wow. So use this command, Selenoid configure -- browsers, and then you can just name the browser you want to use. So this is obviously from 90 and 91, the previous version. And if you don't give any version, then default are the 2 latest version, which is also there is a parameter to change it to 3 latest version or 5 latest version. So there are possibility to reconfigure it. In this case, we just leave in our 6 browsers, but we are taking, instead of Chrome 91 and 92, 91 and 90. -- force, you must apply it, otherwise it won't work. So actually, it wasn't so obvious from the documentation, but okay, I find it out anyway. So something. What went wrong? So, post. What's the problem? I think that was, yeah, I missed this. Yeah, now it's working. Okay, sorry for that. Interesting. Okay, so with the quotes were also necessary, obviously. Okay, now if we look here again, something went wrong. Okay, let's have a look into. So if you need to troubleshoot this, ways typically to go into logs of Docker logs of Selenoid. Oh, container isn't there. Okay. Yeah, I forgot to restart the container after the configuration. It's probably okay. Stop and start. Okay. Now it should be better. Yeah, it is better. Now, as you can see, we don't have Chrome 92 anymore, but we have Chrome 90 and 91. Okay, we managed through it. Yeah, of course. Okay, now we don't need our Chrome container anymore. Let's look. So we have Jenkins in container, Selenoid in container, Selenium UI in container, and Chrome, where we run our test. Let's stop the Chrome container. Docker stop Chrome. Okay, fine. No more running Chrome. Okay, and if we go here, here, no more available. Okay, off it goes. So Next step, let's reconfigure our pipeline to make use of Selenoid machines. For that, we can use here the 4444. So we actually just need to change this from our Chrome container, which is normal there, to our new Selenoid container. Check the interface is the same, so I think it must be working. Yeah, and also let us yeah, okay. I would like to change the project because I actually it's another project, Selenoid, because we are now in Selenoid project, and it should be, if I haven't make any typos, it should be the same latest version of 03 Jenkins projects that we have. Just wanted to separate the two parts. Okay, so here we changing the ports to use Selenide. Okay, and also, yep, it is Selenoid. Okay, and let's rename it also. Okay, and the second, yeah, it's actually also fine. It should be okay for now. So this also want to do is to copy this job. So it's also pretty popular case. So I would like to create a new job, which is almost the same as the Selenide job. And I will name it Selenium Tests. And now I will not choose the pipeline, but I will just copy the Selenide job. Selenide Tests. So it will be, of course, the pipeline join as well, but it's easier. As you can see, there are the same settings here. So I here just need to adjust a couple of them. Selenoid. I think that's it. Yeah. Okay. So now we have a clean project with just Selenoid. Let's give it a run. Okay. Then I will show you another useful line for a build Gradle file. It's also actually pity that the standard settings of Gradle doesn't give you too much of debugging information in your logs. So actually, if we go to Jenkins, okay, probably this also this Jenkins job. Something is already wrong, but we will look into it in a moment. Yeah, so there is some debug information here, but it's much less than it could be. And sometimes it's difficult to analyze the problems if you really need to look into logs. So there are some settings for test block of this test automation for this Gradle builds. About this configures test logging to add some more events, so to log in console if some events are happening. For example, if a phase, like testing phase or other phase, is started, skipped, or failed, and also to forward standard error and standard output streams into logs. So it gives us a bit more logging. Okay. And I think I will run test once again. And meanwhile, let's look what happened with Selenoid tests. Okay, this is our supposed error, but the other tests were not run at all. Probably some misconfiguration has happened. Let's take a short look into it. So, okay, yeah. Can cd to, yeah, obviously typo. Just one here. That must be it. Okay. So start the build. Let's look into logs, and as you can see now, there is a bit more logs. No, not as much as I hoped for. Why? I pushed it. Actually, I pushed it, yeah. Just a moment. Is it the right file I'm in? Sure. Is this the right file? Okay. We will close the other project. Just not mix it up. Okay. Sure, that must be fine. Just logging. Yeah. Looks nice. Okay. We'll see what is wrong with it. Okay, yeah, sure. I haven't, as it was also the version which wasn't committed yet. Okay, now as you can see, you for example, there are outputs where you can see which browser version was started, Chrome 91, and there's much more debugging information which has appeared after we added this configuration. Okay, so okay, and hopefully, yeah, as you can see, the test run was successful. And you know what? I'm a little bit annoyed of running this test is always runs with an error. Let's fix it for a moment. I would like to just fix this test. No. This one. Okay. Back to correct. Okay. Now, beginning from the next one, we're expecting all tests to be green. Okay, so next step on our long journey. Okay, there are some very interesting features in Selenoid, which allows you to see your how your tests are progressing, how your tests are executed in the browser. So literally see it in VNC session, or even save some videos with your tests. Let's look how we can do it. So one possibility is to, so let's take some tests. Okay, we'll close this project as well. Let's take some tests here. And one possibility is to add this snippet, which does following. It adds a capability, which is a map of two entries. One enables VNC, and the second enables video, both as true. And then we are setting it as a capability. Actually, we cannot configure it very easily through directly in our pipeline with -d parameter. So the same way was done here. So it's actually only possible to do it through code. But as I've already told you, I hate when my tests have some infrastructure code in it. So in Selenide, there is a possibility to so you can do it in some other technical way by creating some helper class, which forwards the creation of WebDriver to this class. So there is an example code, which actually pretty general. As you can see, it's actually a very small piece of code that you need, and it doesn't belong to tests in this case. So it's I just put it somewhere in my project, but I know this is so this is still code, but I won't change it very often. This code will be using some variables which I defined. So there is not, you could use here any other names for these variables. Yeah, so I'm using Selenide browser name, Selenide browser version, and Selenoid URL as configurable parameters, which I can now transfer in my pipeline job. And I will show you in a moment how it works. So let's do something. Our tests are pretty fast. I will just put here, I don't know, somewhere here, 20-second sleep, just that we have enough time to open VNC session and to see that it actually works, because otherwise the test is at the moment so fast that we will probably not be able to go into it. Okay. So this piece of code is, of course, also in the repository. You can observe it later. And now, how does our code changes? So just shortly show you another option for configuration would be to define these properties in Gradle file. Then in this case, probably can run it right now. Let's do it. Let's just start this one test from my IDE. It looks how it will work. So here, attention, I want to ask you attention. I may not use Selenide remote property anymore because it has priority over my browser, configuration option. So no matter what I will define as a browser, it will use remote configuration and will try to find a browser over there, which is not what we want. So what we want in this case is to use our Selenoid driver file plus. Of course, if it would be saved in a package, you would give it a full package name here, like com example. Yeah, you know what I mean. If it will be in package, but it is without package, so it's just a class name without package now because it doesn't have any package. Yeah, obviously. And these three parameters are actually arbitrarily chosen by this Selenoid driver because it uses them to configure the driver. And so yeah, as you can see here, I've defined that this test must run with Firefox and version 90, not with Chrome. And let's have a look at our Selenoid UI. Yeah. Okay, there are a lot of videos. It's now difficult to tell which is the newest. They probably haven't deleted the older one. Okay, we will restart it. Now we are late anyway. We'll do it clean, the clean way. Okay, just restart it. And let's restart the test. And let's observe what's happening. This +1 means that it's preparing. Now you see here a VNC sign. Let's quickly go into session. I'm clicking here and voila. Now you can really see how the test is working online as over a VNC client. This is now 20-second pause. Of course, you can make it bigger. Oh, too late. And after that, the test is saved here, so you can watch it afterwards. In full. Okay, you got the idea. So it's a very cheap way to get these extra features without much trouble and without much effort, which is really nice. So Selenium doesn't have it. Okay, so what is the name of video is the same as this session name. So if you need to, you could also download it from this site automatically. So of course it's possible to get the session ID, this number, in test, and then write some code which calls Selenoid and downloads the video if you need it. Okay, so now we just run this test locally, but as I've told, I don't want to to have these settings hard-coded in here, but I really like to configure everything from external source. And basically now I'm doing the very same thing. Just let me copy some code. Yeah. The difference is it's a multi-line string in Jenkins. For multi-line string, I need 3 quotes, beginning and ending, and also because it's actually one line, but presented here as in 4 lines. Make it look better. We need to put a backslash at the end of each Jenkins line to execute it as one single line. Yes, and here we have the same setting you have seen. Yeah, we could use here Chrome. And let's do quickly the following thing. Just copy here this stage. We'll make another stage. Firefox. Like Selenoid with from, and yeah, I would name it Selenoid Noid with Firefox. Of course, I would change here to Firefox. As you can see, no changes to test. It's not even configured in build Gradle, and we have a full control over our infrastructure. We can configure here what should be executed and with which browser. Let's take just for fun another one. 89. Okay, nice. Let's see if it works. And no sessions yet, but they will be coming. If I haven't made any typos, which I sometimes do. Now, you see, it's working. So Chrome is already there. What did I? Actually, we already have here parallel execution of 2, 4, 5 browser, because each of these run is also done in parallel. It could be actually, I don't think I've tested it with this 4 cores system. It could be challenge for, you see, all 5 quota slots are busy. Yeah. Okay. I guess it's becoming also slow. So you should really pay attention to your hardware. So it won't always work to just to increase the number of parallel threads. At some moment, it will probably break. It's also looks like if it takes more time. And actually, of course, writing of videos is a nice feature, but it also takes up resources. So probably if we won't use this feature, like setting we could just enable VNC, which must be pretty cheap for as long as we are not actively using it. So if you just turn it on but not going into this connection, actually VNC is relatively cheap, but this video recording is expensive. So five browser with video recording could break this computer, but it looks like it yeah, it worked fine. So have a look. Not quite fine. Yeah, so something didn't work. Okay, so I actually suspect it's too much for this machine. And so as you can see, we have also a very cheap parallelization, but you probably have seen that what we have here. We have here some browser with containers. So each browser runs in its own containers. But if we are using the same browser version, like Chrome 90, in 5 threads, we still have a single Docker container with Chrome in it. And this Chrome will try to manage five open browsers, which could be too much, especially if you are using video feature in something. Yeah, so it doesn't really scale up so easily. So let's have a look at another feature. Okay, another feature of Selenoid. It's so-called GGR or Go Grid Router. Go Grid Router documentation. Yeah, it's documentation. And this is the last part of our workshop, so we're near the end. But okay, it's also important if you want to really run a lot of tests in parallel. That you will then you will need it. So setup of goes as follows. Setup. And the alternative of this approach, Selenoid with GGR, would be Selenium Grid, of course. Okay, so the 2 lines of code. Oops. Okay, let's do it one by one. First, we're creating a folder for configuration. You could actually take any folder, but okay, it doesn't matter as long as you configure it correctly. So the next step, you must create a user with a password, because GGR is working securely under password protection. So I will create user Selenoid and password Selenoid PVD. Okay. For it, the next step is to create configuration file. And I've actually already created it. And it must be named. It is an XML file which is named after the username. So if you name your GGR user Selenoid, then your file must be named selenoid.xml. So, and this is the file, and it's a configuration. So it's a list of browsers. You must configure here all browsers that you need to that you want to use. Default version is obviously if your test doesn't tell which exactly version should be taken, then this default version will apply. And here for each browser version, you will put a line. So here's a very simple example with just one browser version, 90. So if you want to run more than one browser, just copy this this code with another version. So region is supposed to be like that data center. So if you have your clusters of with Selenoid. So okay, we'll go one step back. We'll explain this GGI tool. It manages Selenoids. So the idea is we can start as many Selenoids as we want. And of course, the idea is not to start them all on one PC because it defeats the whole purpose of scaling. It will not be enough hardware resources. So the good way is to install each Selenoid on its own different virtual machine with its own resources. Yeah, and then we will have clusters with Selenoids, and GGR is a tool to manage them. So this region is supposed to configure multiple data centers. For example, you have some Selenoid host in one network and then another host in another record. And you could create here a couple of regions. And then the idea is if GGR is trying to reach host from region 1, for example, this one, and can't reach it, then it will automatically try to change the region. It will assume that perhaps the whole data center is down. So it's some way to load, to rebalance the load on these regions. Okay, then host is straightforward. It's the host and port of our Selenoid instance. Yeah, and count one is pretty tricky. So documentation says it's not about having only one instance of Chrome on something. It's so-called weights. So if you would have here another host, for example, I just copy here. Oops. Oops. Sorry. What? Okay. So it shouldn't behave the way I want. Good. Copy. We'll have some other host. I don't know. Let's say 1, and the count would be 3, for example. The idea is that if we have the same version, the same browser on 2 different hosts, then Selenoid will randomly assign them to these hosts, but this first host will be taken 3 times as often as this one. So, for example, if the first host has 16 cores and the second host has just 4 cores, it's probably better to put more tests on the bigger hosts. Yeah, and of course it could be made like this 10 and 12. Then the request will go to the second host around 20% more often than to the first host. Okay, so just the thing for balancing. Okay, I will not save these changes. Okay, this is the configuration. So let's make just this simple configuration for just one host, just to see if it works. Then next step, you must run DGR with following line. So there is no configuration manager for it. So here you are starting container, you're running in container directly. -d is detached, name you know already, just to give the name. This is where we connect our configuration to the host. So if you would save it in another folder, another directory, then we would accordingly configure this in some other place. Yeah. RO means read only, just in case. And here I also reconfigured the GGR port from default 4444 to 5555, just to also not now I don't have to reconfigure my Selenoid host, Selenoid Docker container, which already runs under 4444, and then just GGR, the latest release, GGR, the latest release of Go Grid router. Okay, let's run it. Okay. What should we change in our test in order to make use of this router? Of course, actually just one thing. This address, because the interface is still the same. It's no matter if it is Selenium standalone server or Selenoid container or GGR. It's the same. You need almost the same, of course. Here I forgot that we must identify ourselves. So it was Selenoid and Selenoid PVD, yes. Yeah. So just put login and password. And so this stage will go to this GGR, which will find a proper, which will balance this load and find the instance of Selenoid and run there the tests. Of course, we just configured only one instance, so it's not that interesting. But let's just look if it will be working. Okay, and I've just left the other stage to run the same. Yeah, this is going. Yeah, this part is going directly to. So probably it could be also the reason why this test has failed, because actually we should have configured it the same way. Yeah, we don't have here under this address, we don't have Chrome container anymore, but it is now it's Docker container with Selenoid. Okay, good. You know what? Let's just delete this stage, just to not get confused. I think 2 stages is enough. 2 stages is enough for now. Okay, let's push and run it. Selenium test. So now what happens is that our Selenoid with Chrome is running over GGR, and then eventually again with the same Selenoid instance, of course. And the second is using Selenoid directly. So okay, something really happening. Yeah, sure. Okay, and of course, if you manage to remember what session ID it was, by A1, you can find the video with it pretty easily here. Yeah. It's not ready yet. Okay. So let's prepare our last example. Oops. Nope. What's going on? Okay. So for this, I've just created another user and named it Selenoid scaled. So actually the same thing and the password with the same password. And I've created here the file. Let's do it scaled. Yes, with two browsers. And also I've created the second droplet. So it's just another virtual machine. That's how it's supposed to work. It's another virtual machine. It has another IP address and host. It has only 2 CPUs and 2 GB of RAM. And I've already pre-installed their Selenoid and configure it. CM Selenoid. Yeah, it's up and running. It's also standard installation. Let's look at it. Yes, so these are 2 different Selenoids. You can see there's one API, one IP, that's the other IP. So these are different versions, and we will do the following thing. We will run a Chrome test in this instance, and a Selenoid and a Firefox test on this instance of Selenoid. And GGR will help us to balance this load this way. Of course, it's not a realistic example because actually we want to balance the same browser. We actually, in a normal life, we would install the same browser on various nodes and then want to balance them among these nodes. But here is just simpler and easier to see that they are different, that the tests are running the way they're supposed to run. So, okay, back again, and this is the second quarter file. The first part is unchanged. In the second browser, Firefox version 90, and it is the second host. Okay. Okay. And then I probably need to restart GGR after I've changed my settings. I can do it by just doing stop GGR container and start again. Stop. Okay, so now the change must be active. And what we need to change in our tests is that we change the username scale. And let's do the same thing. Yeah, okay, scale. So it's of course the same. So we have DJR just on one node. So if we want to have a very, very clean setup, we would just install DJR on one node, and then we will install the first Selenoid on another node and the second Selenoid on just another node. So just to really balance everything. But now for simplicity, we have on one node, on one computer, we have DJR and Selenoid. And at the second, only Selenoid. So we don't need a DJR here. So it will find this Selenoid here over network. Okay, so now we have configured. Yes, another password looks right. Let's see how it behaves. Okay. So wondering what happens here. Don't want to press enter. It's possible that there are some real problems with Firefox and this test. Also possible. But okay, it's not in focus of our today's workshop. Okay, so have I started it? Oh, the posts are red, which looks like we have messed something up. Unauthorized. Oh. Okay, I thought I've put the password here. Let's do it again just in case. Scaled. Okay. And stop and start GGR. And let's restart the tests. So the tests are telling us that the user is not authorized. It could be if we have configured here wrong username and password. Which I don't see any problems here. Yet. Okay. Oh, looks, yeah, probably I haven't saved the new password for the second user. And I see already Chrome here. Oops. Yeah, 2 of Chrome. Where is Firefox? Firefox is not coming. It's bad. Actually, we have Firefox 89. Actually, it should work. Fails. Okay. Look at the reports. Some consistent problem with now it's Chrome test, which is failing. It's really interesting. Okay, but okay, at least it was running fine. And what I don't get is what is okay, let's compare configuration here. Firefox the same. I don't see any typos. Selenoid scales, actually I've copied it. Should be fine. Let's look at logs. Unsupported browser. Oh, that's I know what the problem is. I know what the problem is, and it's actually right. Because yes, here in my quarter file, yes, I've configured only 90 version 90 of browser, so I must use here 90. That will be it. Okay. And then let's restart the tests. So of course, if you need to use many different versions, you must maintain this file and put all the versions here and configure out which Selenoid hosts they can be reached. So now, hopefully, let's see. Yeah, that will be it. So as you can see, this is our first Selenoid with 2 Chrome instances, and this is the second Selenoid with 2 Firefox instances. It has worked on another, just another host. Yeah, and need some time to respond to Jenkins jobs. Oh no, it's still running. Yeah? It's still running. So Chrome is already done. Try to watch. Okay. Seems to work. Okay. Takes longer. I know, because of course the second virtual machine is pretty slow with less cores and less RAM. Okay. But you see at the end of the day, it also was successful. And we again have green builds with use of, I think it was a rather complex structure. So we have used a load balancer, GGR, Go, Grid, router to manage Selenoid Docker instance, which is managing itself several Docker containers for browsers. Every Selenoid Docker container instance, as you can see here, manages up to six different browser containers. Yes, and our tests are running in these containers, and so we are now very open to scale up our test sets, yeah, up to the skies. Yeah, sky is the limit. Now I think this configuration on proper hardware can manage to get running your 1,000 of your tests in 5 minutes or 10 minutes, whatever you set as your as your goal. Okay, so that's it for now. I guess exercise would be the same as on Jenkins part. Just try to repeat the same things on your virtual machines and see if you can get your tests running in Selenoid containers and with use of GGR to balance between many different hosts. Oh, today was a long day for me. If you have any questions, I think I will wait another 2 minutes. Jack, thank you very much for attending. Yeah. It requires some time. Thank you for the comment. Requires some time to think over again. I hope that the video will be okay. The recording will be okay. You know, I for myself, if I won't do this thing again in 6 months, I will forget most of it. I will be happy to rewatch my own video to regain the steps I've made. Because today actually almost everything worked smoothly. When I was preparing it, I've made a lot of mistakes. So if you are doing it without this kind of help of this kind of video recordings or some definite I don't know, blog post with steps, the chances is it will take you many days to get it up and running. Perhaps, okay, not many, but couple of days. Now it wasn't it wasn't 2 hours as I have hoped, but we are under 3 hours at least, and we managed to go through all the goals which I have set for this workshop. Yeah. Thank you very much for attending. Yeah. I think it was also tiresome to just to watch what I was doing. I guess it's a lot of information. I hope one day just to have each part just to do it the whole day offline with the group, and after each short step that everyone just try it themselves on their computers. It will take time, and we will manage to do this 90 minutes in probably 5 or 6 hours with some lunch break, and it will be a nice nice pace. Yeah, so it would not be as tiresome as tiring as this session was. Okay, but okay, I had a lot of fun preparing it. I hope you will have fun watching it. Thank you all, and yeah, see you someday next time. Bye bye.